Although traces of existentialist thought can be found as far back as Pascal, existentialism was not formed as a movement until the 20th century. The disillusionment which was brought about by war prepared the ground for existentialism to emerge as a movement. There are no two existentialist thinkers alike, so it is not easy to make generalizations. Nietzsche talked about fate, while Sartre put too much emphasis on freedom. Kierkegaard was a devout Christian, while Nietzsche and Sartre were atheists. Dostoevsky and Hesse primarily wrote works of fiction which you can treat as philosophical works, while Heidegger's philosophical writings are so unusual and illogical that they sound like fiction. Despite these differences, we can identify some common themes in the works of most existentialists. For example, irrationality and individuality are an existentialist's main concerns. In Kierkegaard's case, embracing irrationality goes so far as to claim that truth is subjectivity. Or consider Heidegger, who claims that philosophy never arises out of science or through science, and it can never be accorded equal rank with the sciences. This might sound uncontroversial to you, but remember how Newton's most celebrated book was titled Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy, simply because there wasn't always a distinction between philosophy and science. To show you yet another contrast, compare Heidegger's attitude with another widespread movement, naturalism. This view holds that philosophy is continuous with science. By putting poetry and metaphysics above science, Heidegger is taking a stance against logic. In fact, he was not ashamed to call his own philosophy illogical. Of course, not every existentialist is as radical as Heidegger. For instance, unlike Heidegger, Nietzsche and Kierkegaard both had profound admiration for the natural sciences, especially biology. It is just that Nietzsche was worried that too much emphasis on science might negatively affect our sense of morality. Have you ever wondered why talking about morality is at the center of Nietzsche's philosophy? That is why. And as for Kierkegaard, he was much more interested in other things. In one of his letters dating back to 1835, Kierkegaard writes that I have been and am still inspired by the natural sciences, and yet I do not think that I shall make them my principal field of study. Life has always interested me most, and it has always been my desire to clarify and solve the riddle of life. Perhaps even more than irrationality, the emphasis on the single individual plays a crucial role in existentialism. Kierkegaard always wants to ask his reader, are you living in such a way that you are conscious of being a single individual? Without becoming an individual, you cannot find your subjective truth. This is so important that according to Kierkegaard, to become subjective should be the highest task assigned to every human being. Although this might sound controversial, faith or religiosity in general is another thing that is common to existentialists. With the exception of Nietzsche and Camus, although the latter is technically not an existentialist, almost every other existentialist has replaced God with something else in his philosophical thinking. Even Sartre, who is renowned for his atheism, managed to replace God with the notion of freedom. Or take Heidegger as a case in point. In his essay, What is Metaphysics?, he elevates nothingness to an existing metaphysical entity. So much so that nothing, with a capital N, plays an active role in his philosophy. This religiosity is not really a surprise, because once you build a philosophical case upon irrationality, you cannot possibly prove your theories. You can only accept them by virtue of faith. Lastly, let's not forget the importance of passion in existentialism. Kierkegaard never missed an opportunity to criticize his contemporary age for lacking passion. After all, how can you concern yourself with existence, anxiety, despair, death, freedom, faith, irrationality, or absurdity without having passion.